What's up, guys? It's KB. Make sure you subscribe to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel. Click the bell icon down below so you don't miss a single video from us. And thanks for tuning in to another video from Underground Sports Philadelphia. Now let's get into it.
Philadelphia, baby, you're gonna love it. Best sports fans in the world. Actually, the worst, but that's what makes them the best.
Welcome back to Top Bins, the show bringing you all the action from England and Italy. And guess what? We've got games to talk about. No more forecasting the future, just rambling on about transfers, all of that. We got real live games to talk about, and it's going to be that way, Dom, for like another 9 months. We got a crazy schedule ahead of us here.
I love it.
I'm your host, Matt, joined by my co-host, Dom, who you've already heard at least once this evening. Dom, how are you?
I'm good, man. I'm good. Apparently, I'm a child, but you know, at least when I dress up for work, because I'm not unemployed, I wear a belt.
Yeah, that's what's important. Speaking of showing up for work, this episode of Top Bins is brought to you by Beano Board. Beano is the next big tabletop game for your man cave slash she man cave slash she shed. Don't get mad at me. I had to go to speech class when I was younger because the S's and Z's had me really messed up when I was a child.
Not like the R's or nothing.
No,
like
S's and Z's, baby. No, I was not that cute. It was just like, it was actually just kind of sad because I couldn't say recycling. Think of Beano Board as paper football meets foosball. Beano Board is a game and lifestyle brand based in Phoenix, Arizona. Beano's goal is to provide the highest quality boards and a true brand experience. Every part of their boards have been tested time and time again for the best possible playability so that every flicker's experience is a positive one. Bring the world together with Beano and hear someone's story from the other side of the pitch right now, today, tomorrow, the day after. No Jake Gyllenhaal. You can go to beanoboard.com and use our code BEANOUSP, that's BINHOUSP, for 10% off your order, including the newly launched limited edition Ultraviolet board and Team USA and Team Mexico merch. That's code BEANOUSP for 10% off your order at beanoboard.com. The Premier League returned this past weekend, and I'm going to be honest, it was great. It was great just not having my Saturday and Sunday mornings back. Just like 7 straight hours of games. I loved every minute of it. It was so nice. Just veg out on the couch and do absolutely nothing. Before we get into the review, sent out a tweet yesterday, kind of garnering some opinions on what were some people's biggest takeaways from the Premier League opening weekend. Dom, you chimed in. You had a great one. You said Arsenal greater than sign, 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 United, which is a take that I think we can all get behind. Brendan Aronson is going to light the Prem on fire, and Mitrovic may be in the running for the Golden Boot. Is there anything you want to reclaim for that? You want to expand on any of that? I mean, you tell me.
Keep the pitches dry, and Mitrovic is going to absolutely eat. No,
If I have to hear one more pitches dry thing, I mean, Christ alive. It was like the most innocuous quote, which, by the way, someone asked him about the state of the pitch, and he answered it truthfully. And people acting like he's blaming it. It was like a 5-minute segment, 2 seconds where he said it was a little dry, and that's what it is. Unreal.
I mean, look, if he's doing that against Liverpool, hopefully, if Fulham can keep giving him, opportunities and he stays healthy, listen, he could, be up there in the goal tallies. It may finally be that year for him. I think, like you said, Arsenal being much, much better than United is kind of something every, Prem fan can kind of agree upon right now. The biggest one I wanted to talk about was Brendan Aronson. I mean, the kid is just talented. He's just so good. He was so good for the Union when he played in the MLS. He was good for Salzburg. And they called it an own goal,
It was an own goal.
It was an own goal, but I mean, he was in the position he was going to tap it in anyway.
Yes, it's a great run.
I think he gets his legs under him. He's going to be very, very influential for Leeds. For them come this season. I think that he'll play a big part in making sure they stay in the Premier League this year.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to be happy about. We also got a tweet from at XRed Gatorade. United are small. I can't disagree there. This is from David Concordia. This will be one of the best Prem seasons in terms of competitiveness. Even the lower table teams look solid. I think there's some merit to that for sure. I think there's definitely stronger teams. Every year the Premier League gets a little bit more interesting and challenging, I would say, because everyone's got more money.
Looking at all the scores from the games this weekend, yeah, you can definitely see that.
Shall we get into the games themselves, Dom? And shall we start as the Premier League started on a balmy Friday night in London? Arsenal 2, Crystal Palace 0.
Yes, sir.
The curtain raiser. A distinct difference between Arsenal on opening day night as compared to last season. Looked much better this time around. Got the good result. I think the story of this game for me is Crystal Palace had good opportunities that they struggled to finish, which has been, unfortunately, a theme for them. Even last season, when they performed pretty well, just didn't have the strikers that could reliably score the goals. They're short Christian Benteke now, who's at DC United. God bless. Zaha looked bright again for Crystal Palace, which I think is a positive thing. He also had the return of Eze. He had that Achilles injury, so this is really the season you expect him to make a full return to a lot of action and be the player that we hope he can. They still have some young players to work through, and I didn't think they looked bad though. It's obviously not a great result to start your season this way, but I still think Crystal Palace is probably gonna have a pretty good season overall. For Arsenal, the big storyline coming in this is obviously like Gabriel Jesus, right, and how he's going to perform. Had some good moments, definitely some highlight reel stuff. Probably could have had a goal contribution in this game with a little bit more luck, but that's the way it goes. Their corner routine for their first goal was fantastic. I love that kind of stuff. I've read a lot of things about how really teams focus on the second action from set pieces now. And so what's meant by that is what Arsenal did, where the ball goes to Zinchenko, he heads it back across the face of goal, because it's much harder to defend those types of situations because you're introducing a little bit of a variable that really can't be accounted for, whether you're man marking or zone defending. And I just thought that was great. I really like those types of set pieces if you can work on them that way. Saliba looks great for Arsenal. He's gotten a lot of hype, I think, especially over the last 6 months. He had a great season at Marseille, and he looked every part of that player. He just looked really dominant on the ball. I'm looking forward to seeing how he does in the weeks to come, because Crystal Palace are a good team, but I would say there are tougher challenges as well. So I'm looking forward to seeing how he kind of grows into it. And I think it's a good performance from Arsenal. It's a good win. This is the exact way you want to start the season if you're them. Obviously, not saying much there. You want to start with a win, but when you just consider that last season ended, I think, on a sour note. Falling out of the Champions League spots, start this season this way with some new players, all making a good impact. I think it's a really bright start for them.
Yeah, I also want to give a shout out to Ramsdale. He made a couple, very important saves for Arsenal. Sometimes, they got broken down by Edouard and Zaha, and he made sure to make the necessary saves to keep his team above Crystal Palace during this game. I agree with you about Gabi Jesus. He looked very, very, threatening from the beginning of the match, dribbling through 4 or 5 guys in the Crystal Palace back line. And he'll come around. I think that, Arsenal's a good fit for him. He's finally, one of those guys that he's getting his limelight kind of deal now, right? He's always kind of taken the back seat at City because of other players and just the, myriad of options that Pep can pick from. So, he was kind of a utility player there. And now he gets to shine. But I really do think that one of the most important signings that Arsenal made this year was Zinchenko. He was attacking all game. And it really, really brings a new dynamic and dimension to their attack. Not to say that Tierney doesn't do that as well, but I think that Zinchenko just excels a little bit better than he does doing just that. like you said, he has the creativity and the awareness to head that ball back across, because he was kind of wide open when that ball came in. He could have taken that down and taken a shot himself, but they've probably been rehearsing a lot of that stuff in training. So I'm very interested to see if Arsenal can keep this momentum going after this strong showing. That's always been one of their big issues, right? Is consistency. And if they do stay consistent, they can be a big threat this year in the Prem.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we both had them in our top 4, and it's the first game week, and I'll get into this later. You can't be too reactionary about one game, but I think again, as we saw with Manchester United, which we'll get to, a bad performance can really make a situation worse than it already is. This was also interesting too, because the Arsenal All or Nothing documentary dropped the day before. I watched the first episode and the lead up to the game. So I like those. They always turn into a little bit of propaganda pieces and show everything in a happy, fun light.
Not the Juventus one.
The Juventus one, even though honestly is was the same way, where it's Ronaldo's great, Juventus, it just naturally kind of turned to that. But I always like seeing some of the behind the scenes stuff. You get to know the players, the manager a little more intimately, so that was cool. Definitely appreciate watching that. Shall we move on? We'll stay in London. Fulham 2, Liverpool 2. This was the curtain raiser on Saturday morning. Not the way I particularly wanted to start my Saturday morning, but it is what it is. Liverpool have made a habit of conceding first and early, which is a problem. They've been a little dependent on, just finding their way throughout the game and, finding a way to turn it around. No one has more points from losing positions over the last 5 years than Liverpool. That's cool, but also I think, sometimes it's, you put yourself behind the 8 ball, honestly. There's sometimes you can dig deep and find analytical. Sometimes it's just bad to go down a goal. That's it. Mm-hmm. There's nothing more that needs to be said than that. And I think that was the real issue in this game. Fulham looked really good, very strong in this game, very aggressive, very direct, kicking the ball long, and we're winning aerial duels against Liverpool, which, by the way, is not a thing that happens very often.
Tough.
Not an easy thing to accomplish, and they did that. So they had a very, very, very good game plan. I think, they'll probably be thinking that they were unlucky to not have all 3 points out of this one, whereas Liverpool will also be saying that Jordan Henderson shot in the 93rd minute off the crossbar, which gave me a heart attack, probably should have got them all 3 points. So I think whenever both teams think they should have got all 3, that means it was a very good game, and it was very chaotic. It wasn't the best game in terms of quality, I wouldn't say. A lot of misplaced passes. Both teams had pretty bad passing numbers, but yeah, Fulham were just so fast, so direct. I think they had a really strong game plan against Liverpool, and Liverpool, I think, got caught lacking a little bit in that regard. A lot of individual mistakes by Liverpool, which is not what we're used to. It's an uncharacteristic game, I would say, for Liverpool.
Yeah, when I saw that highlight of what Mitrovic did to Henderson, you don't normally see that happen, right? He kind of just mugged him off, and Henderson goes to the ground, and then he takes Virgil on a one-on-one. It's kind of crazy. You don't see a lot of people do that. And I think that Fulham stuck to their game plan well, like you said. Whenever you play Liverpool, you know that they're going to keep possession and they're going to kind of control the game, so you have to come up with a very counter-attacking style. I think that Fulham's going to have to do that all year round, because we've kind of underrated them. We've kind of, said, they may be a suspect team that may be battling outside of 18th all year. But, with a performance like this, you could see that maybe it may come around. Maybe they get to sign somebody in January that helps supplement their play and really, really kind of push forward to be more of a mid-table team. I mean, Diaz hit the post, Hendo hit the post. Everything about this screams like Liverpool should have won this game if the pitch wasn't dry. But Nunez gets a goal and an assist as well. So big shout out. I know a lot of people were criticizing this man all throughout preseason for missed chances in training. God forbid he misses a couple chances in training. In some of the preseason friendlies, getting his feet under him and all that kind of stuff. There's a lot of pressure when you go to a team like Liverpool and the Premier League, and you're expected to perform, especially after, the amazing performances he had in the Champions League. So credit to him for coming out and really doing that. Also, people making fun of him for celebrating the what's it called, Community Shield win, like it was a Champions League final and stuff like that. But we talked about that last week. We don't need to go back into that. But yeah, shout out to him.
The haters love to prey on the downfall. That's all I'll say. And listen, all I'll say is this too. Adding to that, a lot of people love to talk the talk about Liverpool signings. If there's one class of signing that you probably don't want to dunk on too early, it is Liverpool attackers, because they've made people look foolish time and time again with that. So let's just relax.
And also your Golden Boot prediction, your Golden Boot man got his goal today this weekend. So off to a good start. I mean, Liverpool will come around. There's no doubt about that. This is first game of the season. You can't read too much into it. The reactionary takes and all that kind of stuff, throw it in the bin, because, in a couple of weeks, you're going to be like, oh, Liverpool's back. They're going to smash some team 4-0. And, it's the same old song and dance.
I will say the one thing that worries me is the midfield. Thiago has an injury. He has a hamstring injury. He's out for up to 6 weeks, which is not ideal because there's a midfield that already some question marks coming into the season, had some injuries right before the start of the season. Now with Thiago, Harvey Elliott came on and looked great. The game really changed when Harvey Elliott and Darwin Núñez came on. Núñez is someone I think, based on that performance alone, I'd really like to see start the next game. Not that I think Firmino was terrible, but I just think Núñez was so much more direct, like so much more of a goal threat, which is really what we needed in that game. But I think it was could be just a one-off, but it's not the way you want to start a season. When we know the margins are as thin as they are, and I don't think Fulham are necessarily a bad team. I picked them to stay up this year, but you go away to Fulham and you expect to win. That's just like the class that Liverpool put themselves in, and you just know that City are not a team that's going to be dropping tons and tons of points. You could very easily. This is what City have done to me as a fan, is that any time Liverpool drop points, I'm like, well, that's it. Like that's it. That's the title. There it is. The first game of the season. But such is the quality that Manchester City have. But I would say the midfield is a concern, a legitimate concern for Liverpool going forward. But everything else, I think, is going to be just fine. Speaking of being just fine, Spurs 4, Southampton 1. I mean, this was one of those games, too, where within like 10 minutes, it's like, oh, this is over. Like Spurs have just figured it out. They have it under control. There's a little bit of intrigue when Southampton go 1-0 up, and you think to yourself, like, this could be interesting. James Ward-Prowse gets on the score sheet with a really nice volley, by the way. Like, very, very insane technique.
Man's got so much quality.
He does. He's just like just great. Like he's just such a great like technical player. Spurs answer though and score 4 goals, and Kaner's son not one of them, which is a little bit surprising. But Kulusevski amongst the goals as well. Goal and assist in this one. He's a podcast favorite, I would say, just because of how good he's been since he's arrived in North London. Ryan Sessegnon, by the way, who needs Perisic when you have Sessegnon, apparently, who apparently we also went on a conditioning tour with like a boxing coach for 2 weeks over the summer. And he bulked up a little bit and is stronger now. He certainly showed it, because that back post run that Kulusevski found him for was fantastic. But I think we all penciled in Perisic as like the de facto starter, and it's like maybe, I don't know, maybe Sessegnon's going to establish a little more of a place than we thought.
We'll see. Remember, I don't know how many years ago it was, but he was at like West Brom, and he was kind of.
Sessegnon started at Fulham, and then went to Spurs, and has kind of been loaned out like here and there since then.
Oh, yeah, I may have the clubs mixed up, but he was scoring quite a few goals, before he moved over to Spurs. But I mean, this is actually incredible. It's kind of scary when you think about the fact that Son or Kane didn't find the back of the net. Son obviously getting an assist, but I mean, yeah, I think. Kulusevski doing what he's doing, it only, kind of drives home that point. Serie A really isn't that much of a farmers league as people say it is. The players come over. We say this every time we talk about Spurs. Players come over to the Prem, and then they start, balling out. Obviously, you can say, names like Cutrone and things like that to be like, no, they don't. But like, I mean, hell, even Barini came over and made a name for him. Like, listen.
He did a name for himself. I don't know if it was a good name, though.
He had some quality games.
I watched a lot of Fabio Barini, and I got to tell you, he wasn't that great.
But anyway, all right. Conte really establishing in his second year with Spurs, kind of his system. He has the players he wanted. And I feel like a broken record every time I say this, but it's scary for the league when you see that.
I think the testament to that, too, is Bentancur, who was not, just frankly, was not very good at Serie A. And maybe it's just a theme with Juventus players being a little underwhelming and then moving on and looking a lot better. So Manchester United, congrats on Adrian Rabiot, who's going to be a Ballon d'Or candidate, because that's just, if that's the theme, right? Just underperforming midfield player from Juventus going to the Premier League. I'm just saying, if we're following... We'll get there. We'll get there when we get there. Spurs looked good in this game. I think that's the headline. They dispatched Southampton very well, and it's kind of what you expect from them. And I think it speaks a lot too that Kane and Son weren't heavily involved, and yet this is still kind of lopsided scoreline. A little worried for Southampton, maybe. I don't know. It's just Southampton is such a strange team to me in that they don't feel like they're really taking big leaps forward. They made a lot of young signings, youthful signings this past summer, and I just feel like they're a team that gets beat 4 or 5-0, 4 or 5 times a year. And I said the same thing about Eddie Howe when he's at Bournemouth. It's it's cool, but getting shellacked with some kind of regularity, sort it out. I don't know.
It's not sustainable.
They're such a hard team because they do have these good moments. They have this good record against teams like Manchester City, right? And I can remember they've played Liverpool very well over the past few seasons. But I feel like there's something about this team that's so hard for me to understand and truly grasp. But this to me speaks to the Southampton experience, because next week they'll go out and have a really nice 2-0 win, and it's I don't know. They're such a strange club to me at times.
In my opinion, I feel like they rely way too much on Ward-Prowse. You know what I mean? He really has no help when it comes to the goal scoring output for this team. They've got to win a free kick around the box, and he's got to put it in, or they've got to give him some type of service so that he can, show his quality. He needs some help. That's the only way for Southampton to, be somewhat successful and be a mid-table team, because, like you said, it's not sustainable being able to, get shacked, 3-0, 4-0, 5-1 many times a season and hope to stay up.
Yeah, they have Adam Armstrong, who I like. They got Joe Aribo over this summer, so we'll see how some of those signings bed in. But not the best start for Southampton, I wouldn't say. Let's move on to our last kind of in-depth conversation, because we saved the best for last, baby.
You're happy.
Man, does it feel nice to watch Manchester United still play terrible. Erik ten Hag, the genius that he is, the youngest manager ever. Here's what okay, first of all, this was the Pascal Gross show. That's all I got to say about this game. The myth-making that surrounds Manchester United as a football club is insane to me. It is unreal what lies people tell themselves about this team, and that they are the most grandiose footballing institution on the planet. This is Manchester United Football Club. Shut up. Jesus Christ. God did not touch his finger to Manchester United to make them impervious to failing and having bad periods of time, right? And it's by your own choice too. This is all from within. It's just unreal. It's unreal, the myth making about this team, about Ten Hag's this super genius is going to come in and fix the situation because it's the best football club ever. Fucking Tahith Chong was the best player on the planet 2 years ago. Now he's the worst. And now it's Garnacho and whoever else. Christ alive. I know that a lot of big teams do it. I'm sure Liverpool fans do it. I'm sure a lot of other, especially big clubs do it, right? The myth making that you make about your team, these things that you make seem larger than life when there's just a normal thing. United right now just do it in a supreme level, and it's bro, you've not been relevant in the title discussion for a decade. I don't know how to sum that up any clearer.
Let them know.
It's exhausting, because here's what all analysis about United turns into after the game, which is what's frustrating for me, is this is Manchester United Football Club we're talking about. Yeah, we know. I just watched the game too. I know who played in it. can we talk more about like what's going wrong? Like it always comes back to when Gary Neville played, it wasn't like this. Yeah, no shit. Like, of course not. Like,
The game was different.
It was 15 years ago. I don't know what to tell you. Like they've moved past that. They are fallible. Like they can mess up. They can make mistakes like they have over the last 10 years. We can move past it. We don't need to constantly mythicize them as this like institution that shouldn't have been questioned and now is like gone wrong. I'm tired of hearing about the Glazers. I'm tired of hearing about all of it. And I was sick of hearing about Ten Hag all summer. And I'm so happy that it is blown up in their face that Brighton walks in there and dog walks them, by the way.
Yeah.
Wasn't close.
Yeah.
Completely. Should have been a red card from McTominay, number one. Hilarious that he's still starting for this team. I think it is just obscene. And Lisandro Martinez, who I was told was the new libero, who was Baresi, who's going to come in and revolutionize the center back position, gets bodied, and then should have given away the penalty to Danny Welbeck, of all people. Danny Welbeck was running circles around this team. That man has not been able to bend out a full sprint without tearing his hamstring for 7 years. And he was doing laps against these boys. I'm tired of it.
I know you can't hear it. I'm playing gunshots every time you drop a bomb on my stream.
I'm so sick of the United talk. I'm so sick of hearing about the Glazers, and I'm so sick of hearing about the glory days of Manchester United. And as someone that had to grow up in a period, especially as a Liverpool fan, when United were at their absolute best, I cannot remain objective and say that this isn't hilarious.
Oh, I love it.
And that this isn't just the best. Like, it's like having your favorite dessert every day. Like, it's just like, this is just great. But you're not getting fat. You're not getting like the negative effects. You're like, this is just great. This is every day I'm just waking up to warm pumpkin pie. And it's just fantastic for me.
It's very funny. I mean, the memes that came out of this game were just so all the short Lisandro Martinez ones. Like there was one like, oh, who did this, bro? And it was like where they show, the graphic that they have where they show the players like, and they have the back line and everybody's standing up nice and tall. They have just his shoulders, his head at the bottom of the box. Oh my God, I could go on for those. There is something else. There's a revelation that's happening with some of the Manchester United fans on Twitter where they were like, wow, Ragnick was right. And where he was saying like, it's not like these little things that, you can bring some pieces in real quick and fix this and fix this there. Like there's a lot more. Like he was basically trying to say like, it's the front office and how this team is run without actually saying that because he wanted to keep his job at the time. But, there is something very wrong with United, and we're all for it. I think most of football fans that aren't United fans are all for it. This is a team that has been so successful for so long, and their fans have just put themselves on a pedestal, where they're like, oh, we're the best in the world. Nobody can top us. Bitch, you guys have been humbled for, like you said, like 10 years now. It's really been like that. Oh, yeah, y'all got a Europa League trophy. What have you done to build up off that? Nothing. And
even that is, you're talking 6 years ago now.
Cristiano Ronaldo and Rafael Varane aren't even starting. McTominay is starting with his collar up in the game. Like,
it's not United's fault, the collars. I got to say now, though, we can't bring collars back. No. I mean, it can't be a thing. It can't be a thing. We don't need collars on the jerseys. We don't need it.
The one thing that just screams to me is the similarities of what's going on to Manchester United and what happened to AC Milan after they won the Scudetto in 2011. And it's just, yes, the major big name players aren't being let go on free transfers for United, but the fall from grace and the struggles that they're dealing with and yeah, they were in the top 5 last year, top 4. Right, they're in Champions League this year. They were top 4, I think. Right, they were 4th place last season. So,
they did not finish 4th place last season.
No, they finished. They're in Europa League, right? So, by Manchester United standards, it's not good. And you know what? We're just gonna sit back, kick our feet up, and smile and laugh at this because it makes for great Twitter content. Everybody prospers when Manchester United fails, and I really don't see them getting out of this for a long time. There is no instant fix for them.
I think that's what's become really apparent is that this is going to take a long time.
Yeah.
And that
they need
Ten Hag, as good as he may be, is going to need to be back in the transfer window, right? And I think that's been the source of a lot of frustration over the last few days too, is that, you have Marko Arnautovic being linked there, and Adrien Rabiot is now apparently going to United, and, the Frankie de Jong thing is lasted for 3 months now. They haven't really finished up their business. And yes, do I think there's an element from within that this club like clearly has an issue? Yes, but they also like got rid of their scouts after they had already hired Erik ten Hag. Like,
It makes no sense.
It's directionless. That's I think the problem, that there's a direction from the top that isn't good. I think what's the big worry too is like immediately as soon as they conceded the goal, you can tell with this team, they give up the ghost so quick. The confidence leaves, and they're talking about it publicly. Like, yeah, our heads were low after we conceded the goal. It's opening day, and you're at home, and like Brighton are a good team. Don't get me wrong, but it's also it's Brighton. I mean, like, they're a team that you can beat. Like, it's not like they're completely out of your stratosphere. And it's just unreal. Like, it's unreal that you not only did that, but you publicly say it after the game. Like, yeah, we lost confidence after we gave up a goal in like the 30th minute. I mean, it's unreal to me. Shout out to Brighton for looking good. They lost Marc Cucurella. They lost Yves Bissouma. Still looked fantastic. Still looked well drilled. They're a team that's going to give lots of other clubs lots of issues. Let's not forget, they had an amazing away record last season. It was really their home form that was brutal and stopped them from really like challenging for European spots. So they can figure out how to work it on the coast there. Watch out, because that could be trouble.
There's issues when Danny Welbeck is the player of the game.
Danny Welbeck looked great. Rolled back the years, I would say.
Yeah. I mean, Red Gatorade's in the chat right now. He said, tell Ten Hag to hop on career mode to learn a thing about being a manager.
It's true. I've done some of my best work on career mode. Maybe he'll do the same. It might be easier for him to create his own career mode game from scratch than fix Manchester United the next year, because that's the only time that he's going to get. He's going to get a year to sort this out.
Yeah, that's the scary thing about United is how, and again, I can draw parallels between Milan in the 2010s with that, right? You would think that you bring in a new manager, you want an instant fix. If it doesn't happen within a year, the fans want him out, and a new person comes in, and the same old cycle happens until you finally find the right person, and the club decides to, hey, you know what we're doing is wrong. But it's going to take 5 years for them to realize that at minimum.
Respect. Shall we just wrap up a little bit of the Premier League action from the weekend? Everton lose again. Tough one.
They didn't look that bad, though.
Didn't look terrible. Did not look like they were going to score at any point in this game, which is a worry because you're still missing strikers and attacking players. Ben Godfrey got injured in this game as well. He's going to be out for 3 months. They did sign Connor Cody on loan today, which is a pretty good signing, I would say. So they've done some good business, but not great. Chelsea winning that game. They did not look hugely impressive either. I think there's still some concerns there about them. Holland got off to a strong start against West Ham. Got to say, on I think about 7 different levels, this is tough to watch. The only reason it wasn't is because I had him in my fantasy Premier League team, so I was like, you know what? If he's going to go off, no, Captain Salah, come on.
Fair enough.
But he looked great, forced a penalty and dispatched it perfectly. And then KDB played a disgusting through ball. He ran on too and just smooth. I mean, it looked like a training session, like the way he has the most insane stride I've ever seen out of a player. It's just like he's honestly like something else. I said this years ago that there's something very made in a genetic lab about Erling Haaland, and every time I watch him, it reinforces that belief that I'm not totally convinced that he was like birthed by a human, that maybe he was like an embryo in a petri dish somewhere and just sort of like built to be like just this ultimate athlete.
Did you see his post-game interview?
I did. I heard it too. Let me tell you, it's a great listen. I think people have missed that because he got like kind of a reputation for that in Germany, being like very kind of matter of fact speaking. And
you're allowed to curse on TV too in Germany, apparently.
Yes. In England, I think you can too past a certain time. I think like past like 8 or 9. I think
kind of like
allowed
here,
to swear.
Right?
I don't think in America you're allowed to swear.
Oh,
I think you can say.
I've heard the word shit on TV.
I think like certain words and maybe past like certain times, but I think also like I don't know. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not up with the FCC laws. To be honest with you.
But it was funny because Sushi shared that with me yesterday when I was streaming, and I watched it, and then he shared another one of like like a bunch of clips of funny quotes he had from a bunch of different interviews and videos that while he was at Dortmund as well. And I can't help myself but compare him to a young Ibrahimovic, but it's like Ibra 2.0, where like you said, it's something about him like that it's not human.
I'm gonna make a comparison that I don't make lightly, but that I really do believe in, like, my heart. He reminds me so much of original Ronaldo. It's actually like uncanny in a lot of ways. Like the physical profile of him and his people forget that original Ronaldo was very fast too when he was young. Like it was just, and he obviously had some really unfortunate like knee injuries and stuff that hampered that. But it's just like scary. Like it really reminds it. Not that he's on that exact level. Right, I don't want people to not hear what I'm really saying here, but I just think like
a hot take.
So FIFA has this like FIFA Plus thing, and you can go back and watch. They have tons of like archived footage, all like World Cups and stuff. So I've been like doing a little like back watching of like some older games and some older like especially like Brazil, and I gotta tell you, Holland reminds me so much of Ronaldo, and I don't like making that comparison because that worries me. But damn,
if Holland can really improve with a little bit of his creativity on the dribble and his finishing on his right foot, I mean, it's like an Ibra, like Ronaldo was the prototype, and there's not too many that will ever reach that level anyway. And like Ibrahimovic was one of those players that idolized him, and then Holland is growing up watching Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi, Ibrahimovic, and going back to probably watch clips of Ronaldo. And all of this is just in his brain with his physical, stats. I wanted to use a better word, but, his build. And
his profile, physically
what
as an athlete.
Able to do, his speed, his physicality, his strength. You don't see this in a lot of players.
And his movement too is insane. Yeah. Like his awareness is great. Like he's just, I think people were really undervaluing him coming into the league and immediately, and especially the Community Shield didn't help. But it says a lot to me when Wayne Rooney is saying that this guy could break the goal scoring record. It's like, yeah, he could. Like, and I think I said that to you when you picked him to go over the goals, which I didn't disagree with. I was just making a contrarian choice. But yeah, like if he stays healthy, if he plays like 35 games in the Premier League, I don't think it's inconceivable he scores a goal a game on average.
I said this. It's either I said this last week or 2 weeks ago where I think it was last week because after the Community Shield, I was like, look, it's going to take, a week or two for City to kind of and Pep to kind of get those tactics and get used to having an actual number 9 up top where you can get that service in. And look what happened this week, right? Kevin De Bruyne with that pass. I mean, Pep has been, saying, get the ball in. We get it out wide. We hit the ball in, give service. We've got people in the box. We can score goals like this now. And if City can adjust that quickly to their style of play and make sure that they're getting Holland the ball, like you said, he could score a goal a game. It's not inconceivable to think that.
Yeah, so scary hours there for sure. Newcastle dominated Nottingham Forest. Everyone's favorite promoted team, Nottingham Forest, got dog walked by Newcastle. Not great to see. Not a great start to the season. I'll say that much.
Did they play at Newcastle?
Yes.
What a welcome back for Jack.
Yeah, didn't help matters. We'll see how Nottingham Forest go. I don't want to make too many conclusions just yet about them. Speaking of conclusions,
actually, right before you hit that, I saw a very interesting thread on Twitter that talked about when the financial takeover happened at Newcastle. Everybody, said, "Oh, they're going to go crazy with the transfers," and I think the front office kind of came out and said, like, "Look, like financial fair play is still, affecting us. We can't just go out and splash exuberant amounts of money and bring in the best players. So we have to find a sustainable approach to this where we can build this team over a few years, get a quality side, and then bring in a couple big signings here and there as the years go on." And I think that if Newcastle stays with that approach, I think that they could challenge, for a European spot in 3-4 years.
I think their goal is within 5 to 10 years to be competing in the Champions League. So that tracks.
Yeah.
So this was opening weekend. We've all made up our minds about how good and bad these certain teams are. I would just like to take a moment to reflect on last season's opening day and just maybe think about, maybe let's just relax. It's one game. Let's Brentford beat Arsenal 2-0. Not really indicative of the way the season went for those teams. Shall we remember Manchester United beating Leeds United 5-1? And everyone was convinced Manchester United are going to win the title.
Ronaldo!
And they finish on their lowest Premier League point tally ever. Yeah, let's pump the brakes on both directions, right? We don't want to be too negative about teams, and we don't want to be too positive, right? Like, let's just relax. Brighton beat Burnley 2-1 last year. Chelsea beat Crystal Palace 3-0. Everton beat Southampton 3-1. Leicester beat Wolves 1-0. Watford beat Aston Villa 3-2. Watford, the team that got relegated, and Aston Villa team finished comfortably mid-table. Fair enough. Norwich got beat 3-0 by Liverpool. Newcastle lost to West Ham 4-2. Shall we remember Spurs beating Manchester City on opening day last year? And it was the Manchester City show, and that they were terrible, and then they won the title. It's one game.
It's one game.
Let's just reel it in. Tottenham were top of the table after the first 3 games last year. Let's just relax. Things can change so quickly. We're 1 game in. We got a lot of time left. A lot of it. Let's just talk about some transfers that have happened, and we'll get up out of here. But Adrien Rabiot to Manchester United. We talked about this a little bit, at least previewed it. I don't know how to feel about this. I don't think he's that bad of a player that people seem to make him out to be. I actually think he was one of Juventus's best players in the second half of season last year, which wasn't saying all that much because they weren't a great team, but I think he's a fine midfielder. He's like a fine rotation option. I worry that he's just not going to be that for United. He's going to be counted on a little bit more, but I don't get the discourse around him all that much. People love to meme about his mom, and I think that's weird. Because the PSG stuff is like 5 or 6 years ago now at this point. And by the way, I think it's weird too, because people are upset about it, I think mostly because his mom is his agent, and that's kind of like a weird thing for people, I think, to kind of like wrap their mind around. And I think there's potentially a little bit of misogyny in the way that we talk about her and the way she represented her son to PSG. And that you can't believe everything you read in the newspaper either, by the way, because PSG definitely leaked stuff about him in that situation. It just feels weird that people cling to that as like the reason that she's terrible and Rabiot is like this drama queen. Because since she's been at Juventus, nothing. The only thing that I think she's done that has been like publicly made available and is probably like a little sketchy and be like, maybe don't do that, is when she was like publicly feuding with Mbappe's family at the Euros, and like blaming Mbappe for them not advancing, which technically true because he did miss the penalty, but maybe don't say that out loud. I just think it's weird. I think it's weird how people talk about that and cling to that stuff when it's like, if you think agents aren't toxic towards like front office, don't say things that maybe are a little like unprofessional, you're kind of being a little naive. I think it's just because it's his mom and it was a funny story and people have just intrinsically linked that to him when that has not been an issue at all with him at Juventus. I think it's just weird. It's a weird like subtext that's going to follow him around for the rest of his career, I guess. But as a player, I don't think he's that bad. I think it's a pretty okay signing.
Yeah, he's good for a few highlight plays a season. The one that always stands out is during the COVID year. When Milan did end up coming back and winning like 4-2 against Juventus, but he scored that absolute banger of a shot outside the box, top right corner, and so he's got some quality. He can serve a good pass on a platter for a striker and stuff like that. But I don't think this moves the needle that much for Manchester United. Manchester United are in kind of emergency mode and trying to get in any other players that can kind of help change the dynamic that they can. And now he's in the Prem. Maybe like you said earlier in the show, the trend of Serie A, I wouldn't say studs, but kind of like Serie A outcasts, guys that haven't really shown much, for their club, most notably Juventus, because all these 3 guys that we talked about play for Juventus. They come to the Premier League and do well. So, we'll see.
Yeah. So Marc Cucurella moved to Chelsea. Chelsea moved in and just got the valuation that Brighton wanted.
Well, we
which
know that
City were not
Barcelona
willing
wasn't
meet.
going to actually do it.
Right. Well, they have their own money
Economic
issues.
levers, guys.
Yeah. So that's interesting because obviously I have Ben Chilwell there, but he's coming back from pretty much being out most of last year with a knee injury. And he can fill in at center back. In fact, he came on as a sub for center back. So curious to see how that works out. Timo Werner's leaving Chelsea to return to Leipzig on a pretty cut rate deal. Just one of those players that I just think got in a weird situation. Gets a little maligned more than he should, but certainly hasn't produced the goals like he should either. I think there's some blame to be had all around for Timo Werner's lack of success. But he's headed back to Germany, and we saw last time he was at Leipzig, he was great. He's one of the top strikers in Europe, so I wouldn't be surprised to see him get back to those levels. He'll be linking up with Nkunku. That's a little dangerous. I'd be a little worried about that. I think if I'm in the Bundesliga. I don't know if you saw the transfer video for Gini Wijnaldum.
I did.
I'm still trying to wrap my head around why he crawled out of a pool. I don't know what was up with that. It was cool, but it just didn't seem necessary. So Gini Wijnaldum is a Roma player now. I'm looking forward to that. See if he can get back to some of his level that we've seen before.
Look, I will say this about Roma, though. It's kind of scary with what they've got going on right now. They've looked pretty well. They've looked pretty good in preseason. They're getting the signings that they want. Mourinho is going to Mourinho. How is this his third year?
This is Mourinho's second year at Roma.
We all know the Mourinho timeline, right? It's okay in the first year. The second year they start making big improvements, and then that third year is when they're actually serious. So if they're getting guys like Dybala and Wijnaldum and stuff like that to bolster their squad, next year it may be very scary. I'm seeing a lot of Inter accounts, Milan accounts, Juventus accounts, saying hey, this is a team we got to start taking serious. Everybody loves to troll Roma, but this is coming from me. Listen, they're a team you got to take serious this year.
Yeah. We'll see. We got the Serie A opening this weekend. We'll see what happens, right? Fabian Ruiz to PSG. This is starting to become advanced. This would be disastrous for Napoli, by the way, because they've lost a lot of players. Mertens is going to Galatasaray. Kind of a bummer. I'd like to see him play, maybe within Italy still, or one of the leagues that is a little more available to watch. But Fabian Ruiz leaving Napoli, that'd be a big loss. Great for PSG, who have rebuilt their midfield all of a sudden this summer, and are looking a lot more dangerous. One of my favorite midfielders to watch, and I think
Very
one of the top
quality
midfielders in Serie A. So he'll be a big miss if he goes. Worried about that for Napoli. When you lose that much talent in one summer, that's not easy to recover from.
Napoli looking to sign Raspadori, which I don't know how that's going to really go. I know that Raspadori kind of gave Sassuolo an ultimatum where he was like, if you are going to sell me, you're only selling me to Napoli. I don't know if those reports are 100% true, but he kind of was like, you better get this done, especially after their performance against Modena today, getting beat. I think it was 4-1 or something like that. 4-2, something like that.
It was 3-2.
3-2. Yeah, and Domenico Berardi kind of going after fans, making fun of him after the game, and
as he should, by the way, because it's weird behavior as an adult to pay to go watch someone play a game.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
Expect them to just be cool with you, abusing them.
100%.
I think it should happen more often. Listen, if you feel confident enough, you should be able to go into a cage and say it to their face and see what
Look, there's some dark clouds over top of Sassuolo this year. They lost Scamacca. The bulk of this stuff is going to be on Raspadori and Berardi, but I'm not convinced that they'll be able to do that, especially with Raspadori wanting out. Berardi just always seems to stay. I don't know if he'll be sold too. It may look like they're going for a hard rebuild. It's going to be interesting to see what goes on this season with them.
Yeah. So Serie A opens this weekend, like we said. Some big games in the opening weekend too. Got some good ones for sure. Milan Udinese on Saturday. The champions get to open the season. Be looking forward to that. That same day, Sampdoria, Atalanta, Lecce, Inter, some good ones there. We've got Roma, finally in action. We'll see how they play on Sunday against Salernitana. Hellas Verona and Napoli on Monday. Juventus Sassuolo on Monday as well. So some really good tasty fixtures. Nothing crazy, no big like flash games, but some good fixtures all around.
The Milan Udinese game is very interesting because I don't think Milan has beat Udinese. This is at home in Milan, right? Or is it at Udinese? It's one of them.
It is in Milan.
Yeah, Milan hasn't beat Udinese at home in like 2 years or something like that. So it's like very, very, high stakes kind of deal. A lot of eyes are on that.
Yeah, and we'll get a good look at them and how they've progressed because they haven't made a ton of transfers, Milan. So we'll see.
CDK's been looking good though in the preseason.
Yeah, we'll see. It's preseason. Gabriel Jesus looked great in the preseason. So did Manchester United. Yeah, it's preseason. What are we gonna do?
Allegedly, Hakim Ziyech is also looking to move from Chelsea, and Milan may be eyeing up a loan plus option to buy.
The Italian special,
as you know, Maldini loves to do. But apparently, it may go all the way up until the end. So let's see if Milan puts all their eggs in one basket.
The Italian special.
We know what's going to happen.
Till August 27th for the loan option. In England, we've got some interesting ones as well. Certainly highlighted by Chelsea and Spurs on Sunday. But you've got, let's see, we've got Arsenal, Leicester, Aston Villa, Everton. We've got the Gerrard Lampard rivalry back at it again this weekend, getting that rekindled, which is great. If you'd like to see a murder, Manchester City play Bournemouth on Saturday morning. Shout out to Bournemouth for winning this weekend against everyone's opinion. Yes, just whatever money you have, put it on Holland scoring lots of goals against Bournemouth. That's my advice to you this weekend. Really looking forward to Chelsea Spurs, obviously, because that's going to be a fantastic one. I always like the early season kind of matchups between top teams, just because
Conte against his former club too.
Yeah, we've got that to look forward to. It was a great opening weekend. I'm looking forward to having United plays Brentford. So not an easy matchup, it should be said. Brentford looked pretty good.
I don't say anything.
Came back against Leicester. Shout out to Josh Da Silva. Almost said to retire. Stays healthy. He was out for like a year and a half, and he scores the game tying goal against Leicester. So
Ten Hag's got a man with a pacemaker playing box to box for them. So it's kind of crazy.
No, he was playing as a striker for them. Yeah, defend that one. Defend Christian Eriksen lining up as striker for this team because you didn't want to unsettle Rashford, Sancho, in their placement. God forbid Rashford be unsettled from the starting lineup. Genius shit. Yeah, let's make 3 subs at the 90 minute when we're down 2-1 chasing the game at home.
You don't want to.
He's just like he's just a young genius, and I just don't get it.
You don't want to unsettle Rashford, but you leave Varane and Ronaldo on.
Varane sucks because Varane was terrible last year and couldn't stay healthy. So they bought the Lollipop Guild to start over him.
That's a violation, dude.
It's the truth. No one wants to hear it, but Varane has been quietly bad for United. Very
the Lollipop
bad.
Guild comment. That was.
I mean, come on. He's 5'6". What am I supposed? Are we supposed to not talk about how you're playing a defender who's 5'6"? Just to not mention that. Come on.
But Cannavaro won the Ballon d'Or in 2006.
Cannavaro had amazing timing and is one of the best defenders of his generation. I'm sorry, I don't think Lisandro Martinez is up to that. I think it's really unfair actually to compare him to Fabio Cannavaro. I don't know. That's just me. I don't think he's going to be leading Italy to the World Cup. I'd actually be really shocked if Lisandro Martinez could figure out how to do that in the next 4 months. Then we could talk about him being great. That's all we got. We won't be back next Monday because I will still be in Virginia. But we'll be back at some point next week to talk about the opening Serie A weekend, talk about week 2 of the Premier League. We're going to keep it locked and loaded for y'all. Dom, anything to say before we get out of here?
Forza Milan. Get
Forza
it done
Milan.
Against Atalanta, you know the deal. Oh, actually, yeah, one story right before we leave. Very quick. When I was working this weekend, a guy came into the brewery with a Tottenham jersey on. New one. I could tell it was new because it had the Champions League little patch and this foundation patch. And as he walked by, I noticed the Champions League patch, but I also noticed no number. So I chuckled to myself.
The Megamind meme, no number.
Oh man. And he was talking about, the players, and he also, highly praised Kulusevski and all that. He asked me what my team was. I was like, I'm not a Prem fan. I was like, I'm an AC Milan fan. He's like, oh, Milan. I'm like, yeah. What's your Champions League count? It's blank. Oh, okay.
Hey man, they got close. They got close that one time until like a minute into the game when they gave up a penalty. That one time they got close. So it is what it is. Yeah. Speaking of violations, I saw that Spurs title in 60-61 is closer to 1890 than it is to today. So tough. But you beat Southampton 4-1. You gotta take your victories however they come.
Actually, let me ask you a question before we're done. What collapse are you more likely or more excited to see? I think I know your answer, but Manchester United or Barcelona?
Oof. Manchester United, just because that's just tortured my life. I gotta say, I'm loving the Barcelona hate, because as a man who's seen two great players get swindled to Barcelona, it feels so good. It feels so good for everyone to finally see what a rat club that is.
Levers.
I think it's insane that I think it's been talked about, but not probably talked about enough, that they're threatening to open a criminal proceeding against one of their own players for a contract deferment. It's beyond the pale. I mean, there's only so much you can say about it before it seems ridiculous. But shout out to Barcelona. Mas que un club, mas que un club.
Apparently, when they sold the TV rights, they tried to swindle their own money with the accounting and the books, and now they have to pay tax, and they're paying 34 point something million in taxes for this sale. If somehow the money's going on, they're trying to force Braithwaite out. The fans are flipping him off and booing him when he's getting announced. Frankie De Jong is trying to. Oh my God! It's a telenovela. And it's
Tom, but they're more than a club.
They're selling chocolate. They're selling Barcelona.
Why do they sell it?
They're selling Barcelona brand chocolate for another.
That's not shocking
lever.
to me. That's not shocking to me, though.
Pull the levers, boys. We got.
If I have to hear lever one more time for the rest of the summer, I might pull a lever on myself. You know what I mean? I'm over that phrase. Don't want to hear any more about it. We'll be back next week, wrapping up Premier League Serie A action. Until next time, we'll talk to you next time.